reviewing the Mishnah on Taaseh and Av. Okay, the Mishnah says, what's the tikra? Tikra is, or are...
Ceiling.
Wooden beams.
Better. Beams. Okay, beams. And what are you trying to use the beams for?
This, according to Rashi, Nisaran.
Beams.
Yes.
So you're using them for what? Succah. Okay. Rav Yehuda says that it's a machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel holds that if I use a tikra, okay, what do I have to do? Actually, I'm sorry, let's do Beis Shammai first. Beis Shammai holds if I use a tikra, I have to both be mefafkek, which means soser it, lift it up, minanea, and then bring it back down, and replace one of them with a pesa.
Right.
That's Beis Shammai.
Right.
So he implies I need both. Beis Hillel says no. Initially, Beis Hillel seems to say that I can do either lifting or pesa. The whole question we're going to take up is, what does it mean, o pesa? Right? Because then Rashi modifies it to mean not or, meaning that all I have to do is lift. That's all that's necessary. What's the issue according to Beis Hillel? Taaseh, Velo, HeAsui. Okay?
What's the issue according to Beis Shammai?
We don't know.
There's another one of those things that's just above one level.
No. I mean, he's going to have to agree there's some Taaseh, Velo, HeAsui
Ish
going on there, right? You'll see what the other issue is. But we don't know right now in the Mishnah. We're just in the Mishnah right now. No definitions, no svara, nothing. Just got to get the facts, okay?
It still goes according to
Okay, so now working backwards, but no, you skipped a step.
Okay.
So Rav Yehuda, who's going to pass like Beis Hillel, also
holds like
Rav. Okay, meaning that what does Rav require in the case of the mechubar? Just cutting. So the same way, just cutting removes the psul of the schach. So too, again, just lifting up remove the psul of the schach here.
Right.
Okay, period. Now, okay, and that's based, and therefore Rav Yehuda holds there's no problem using the beams for initially. There's no problem in the chepsa. Whereas Omer seems to imply there's a problem with actually using the beams. So therefore he would hold the only way to get out of the problem of using the beams is to pesel. Okay? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Weiter. Now let's look at the Gemara.
What's the whole problem?
No, so the Gemara immediately says, Bishlama, Beis Hillel would make sense. Because it's Taaseh and HeAsui. And as Yaakov read Rashi saying that what's the problem with the tikra? Because the beams are not, they don't have Shem Sukkah olav. But he's not, you got to be careful, this lingo. He says, ain't Shem Sukkah olav. What does it mean?
I know, but before he used schach, so
this must be different. They're interchangeable. You'll see.
Why?
You'll see why.
Is he doing it specifically to show?
I don't know. Well, I'm not ready to play that card yet. Okay, wait. But for now, assume that they're interchangeable terms. Okay, so he's saying since there's no Shem Sukkah on the beams, and therefore, what else does he say? Uxeris tikra. What's Xeris tikra? I don't know.
Pre-made, okay.
Well, what's Xeris? Do we know what Xeris tikra is yet?
I don't know.
We don't know yet. Okay, go on.
I don't know
from the previous.
Back to the Gemara on Yudal and Amalf. Okay, just so we know what Xeris tikra is. So the Mishnah there says Misachim and Nisarim. Did Rabbi Yehuda? Remember, Rabbi Yehuda says I can use beams, right? Rameir Oser. So the Gemara says Amarav Machlokas ben Nisarim Sheish ben Harba. We'll take it up later on. What the business is of them being 4 tefachim in width. That's another issue we're going to take up. Why does that matter? Okay, fine. Right? The Rameir is like Xeratikra, Rabbi Yehuda is like Xeratikra. So what's Xeratikra? So Rashi says, where are you? Yeah, 1 second. He says, So Rameir, the apostle is like Xeratikra. No, but he doesn't explain what it is. Oh, all right. So he says like this. Because why? So what is it? So So if we made the beams kosher to use. Yeah. So if you said 2x4s. Now remember, 2x4s are the universal beams used to build, not otsar, are used to build a house. Okay. So when I go, we're not talking about today. I'm using 2x4 to make it simple. Every time a house was built, okay, what kind of wooden beams did you use? 2x4s. Does that mean you have to use a 2x4? No. But the common beam used was a 2x4. So if I walk into someone's house and I saw 2x4s in the ceiling, what am I going to deduce? It's for a bias. That's what it's for. Okay, so Rashi says, if we made the beams kosher, Asilamemar will come to say, Mali l'schach be'elu, right? Mali le'shev tachas koros beisi, right? Afi ben Isarim mekura. So he's going to say like this. He's going to say what? He's going to say, what's the difference between sitting underneath what?
2x4s and regular style.
Beams.
Okay, right. Okay, and then what's he going to do? He's not going to leave his house.
Leave his house.
Right. Because what's the problem with the beams on his house?
Puzzle.
We got to understand what's going on here. Why are they puzzled for?
Because they're permanent.
Because it's bias.
It's supposed to
But
be.
what could he do?
Oh, you can make l'shem schach.
Oh, so he could sosa everything.
Sosa.
He's not going to do that.
Right.
All right. You know, look what he says. He says, Mali leishav tachas koras basi. I can sit and eat the beans in my house. Afi b'nesarim mikura. Right. So there are also beans. Right. Vahu vade pasol. This sukkah amrachmana velo beso. Now here's the thing. Velo beso shall call it yomos hashana. But 1 second. So Ezra pointed out correctly before, which I want to shoot him down on, but that's because I want to wait to finish Rashi. What's Rashi telling you? Okay, Rashi's telling you, what can't you do on sukkahs?
You can't use it. You can't make it
Can't
the house
sell
they
it
used
as
all
the-
years.
Amar Rachmana the sukkah Amar Rachmana v'lo beisol shakol
You can't make it in your
moshana.
house.
I can't use my house, which implies what? Even if I was.
Even if you did make soser, it'd still be wrong because Xeris Succah.
Okay, so at this point in time, okay, if I have my house and I have beans, okay, is there anything wrong with the chepsa?
No.
Okay,
Probably not.
is there anything wrong with the shem schach?
Yeah.
What's the problem with shem schach?
You can still make it l'shem schach, but
Whoa,
it just
whoa,
won't register.
whoa! And this is why you have to balance all those areas. What is there a problem with the chafsa? Can't be. No. Is there a problem with shem schach?
Yeah.
Why? Isn't it l'shem sale?
Right.
But it's the same challah by it.
Okay. So now that's why he's changed the term to l'shem
Succah.
sukkah. Okay.
Structure.
That's why now we get to l'shem sukkah. There's something else going on in schach now. That's why schach in halacha is one of the most abstract areas to understand. You have the chefsa, you have shem schach, which has to do with sale. You can't tell me it's not with sale here. How's it not with sale? If I build a roof to my house, it's certainly the shem sale, right? I want it to cover my house, to protect me, right? It's not liyavesh. Oh, it's not liyavesh. So therefore what? So there's something else going on here. Rashi's telling you there's another issue the Rabbanan come along with, which is that we don't want you to, again, let's be careful. Midoraisa, I can't live in my house. Midoraisa, I can't live in my house. So the Rabbanan come along and say that, we're going to have to define this at some point, but the Rabbanan come along and say that the beams that are normally used for houses, which in the case of my sukkah, I would not be using for a house, there's no problem with the chafsa. There's no problem of it functioning as sail. But since those beams are the ones you use to build a house with, or as a roof for a house, Xeris Tikra. At this point in time, based on the Gemara on Yudalit, it sounds like. And by the way, that's what the Gemara presents it. The Gemara initially the Gemara says, and relax, we're gonna modify it.
Yeah.
Don't worry. But at this point in time, it seems like there's a machlokas about whether or not there's a Xera, or whether the Xera applies. I'll put it that way. But it really means because the only situation applying is by tikra. If there's Xeris tikra or not means that can I use the wooden beams?
Imifat fake of the Meister.
Right.
Inota achas meantime.
Avaban Maisa. So what does that mean? So basically it works out very well. Why? Because if the problem is Taaseh and HeAsui, so there's
the black guys to try.
Both in Meister.
there's two there's two ways. Now look at Beis Shammai. Now the question is.
Tonight with the reasoning. The Mishnah says Masai b'chada sagi, but one would be sufficient.
Oh, okay. Whoa. Okay. So if the problem is Taaseh and HeAsui, so then Beis Shammai, how could he possibly require you to do both lifting and pesal? That's absurd. One would be sufficient.
Right.
So therefore, what?
Imishum Xeris Tikra, but no Zahas meantime.
Okay. So that's the curveball the Gemara throws you. Okay, that's the curveball. So what's the other issue we're discussing?
Can make Xeris Tikra.
Xeris Tikra.
Even that doesn't work.
Okay, now one second. Let me ask you a question. Xeris Tikra. Okay, this is the challenge. This is the meta question. The meta question of the whole sugya. Is Xeris Tikra related to Taaseh and HeAsui or no? What would you say?
Well, if you get to the Nua, I guess it'd be.
Okay. Is Xeris Tikra related to Taaseh and HeAsui? All right, you'll see. It is. Even though right now it doesn't seem like it is. Okay. Okay. So, because right now, so if it's Xeris Tikra, so which one would work?
Well, it seems otherwise.
Beis Hillel says that the problem here is Taaseh and HeAsui. Okay. So the Gemara says, so therefore it doesn't matter which one you do. You can do lifting or pesach. Okay. Now, follow the logic here. Beis Shammai says you need both. The Gemara says, what do you need? How can you need both? What's the problem here? If the problem is Taaseh and HeAsui, which one of these two would work?
Soser.
Well, 1 second. Look what the Gemara says.
Both.
If he says this, the Gemara says, Ela Beis Shammai, my tamayo, imishum Taaseh and HeAsui, vechada sagi. Which one would work?
Lifting.
No, vechada sagi.
One of them, both.
One of them, either one would work.
Yeah.
Okay. One second. For now, let's make it simple. The pesel breaks its identity as a tikra.
Okay.
We don't know how that works yet, but that's what it does.
So according to-
But one second. But mifafkek would not work by xeris tikra. If I went ahead and I just lifted up my beams,
Right.
that would not break the issue of xeris tikra.
Really?
Really? Look at the Gemara
I
says.
thought it was this nigger is zero sticker.
The olam xeris tikra. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm reading. This is what I meant to say. Apple page mefafek inoto out time. In. Okay, so even though you lifted up one of the planks.
Right.
In. Yes.
No. So even though I already did mifafkek, e noto achas b'intayim in, it's good. E low.
Right.
Okay. So what does that mean? Who do we go to? Rashi.
So Mefavik, you're good, regardless.
No. Not, we're trying to answer Beis Shammai.
Oh, no.
Beis Shammai. What's Beis Shammai saying? Beis Shammai is saying that you got to do both.
Yeah, both.
Well, it gets even stranger.
Because
now,
you don't know what the issue, because the issue could be both.
say it again.
Because it could be an issue of both.
Correct. In other words, whatever the Gemara is saying.
Xeris Tigger and possible.
Well, don't plug that in yet. We're going to plug that in. You're right. But I'm saying let's just go slowly. The Gemara is saying that how do you learn Beis Shammai? Beis Shammai requires what? He requires both. What do you mean? He's saying it's not that he's saying you do mefafkek, but mefafkek is not enough. You got to do it's like a two-step process. Mefafkek and then pesel. He requires two things to be done. Of course, the question is
Why two?
okay. Let's take a look at Rashi.
Which one?
Ela Beis Shammai,
Okay. The boy eternity.
which means he needs both.
Two.
Okay.
Which means that secret islahu de'in misachen ben sarim. V'shemachi lo mani pik.
So if it's because of xeris tikra, right? So you can't use an asarim, right? And therefore you pick. Mifafkek wouldn't work. In other words, why does mifafkek not work? Because mifafkek does not break the roof thing. It's just a solution for HeAsui.
Yes.
So keep going. V'haki kamri.
Wait, that makes it sound like it's not.
Start again. So Rashi says v'haki kamri. Klomar. Lo mahani pickbook, so mifafkek won't work. Ela natila achas b'meintayim. Rather, you have to actually take one of the beams off.
Right.
Okay.
Which is pencil? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Deika maisa ma'alya. Okay. Because now, what are you doing? What are you doing if you do that?
From
Right. Well, how are you doing that? What does maisa ma'alya mean? Ezra, you're raising a good question. Ezra's question is, well, why is pesel sufficient? Why don't you say you have to take off all the beams? Because think about it. If it's a din in the chepsa itself, right? Then you should count any of them. Right? What?
Okay, well,
Exactly. But he's not saying that. He's not saying that. The gzeras tikra nami batlola. If I do notal achas beintayim, if I take the beam out, replace it with the pesel. Okay. The high da'amri mefafkek. But what about the fact he says mefafkek? What does he mean by mefafkek? Hachik amri. Hamefafkek lo hoel notal achas beintayim. So right, meaning what? Meaning so how do you read the Mishnah? So I know no one likes when the Gemara does this, but how do you read the Mishnah? Beis Shammai says like this. Beis Shammai saying Beis Shammai says mefafkek does zilch. The notal achas beintayim.
So Beis Shammai is right there.
It says ihachi ema sefer a mayor ema sefer a mayor omer notal achas beintayim. Right, but 1 second. So then what's the machlokas then? Then Beis Shammai lines up like a mayor, and there's no reason to have a mayor's position whatsoever.
Okay,
1 second. Look at. I'm sorry. No, Rashi didn't say that, right? So the Gemara's kasha is a good kasha. The Gemara says ihachi ema sefer a mayor omer notal achas beintayim. What do you need that for, right? So. There's Rameir Omer, no tachas beintayim, but lo yifafkek. That's exactly what Rameir says. Rameir says in the Mishnah, no achas beintayim, but eno mefafkek. That is Beis Shammai. That's Beis Shammai, so that can't be. There's no way that could be, because there's no machlokas then.
It's different because you don't like Shmuel.
Okay, so that's attempt number 1. Okay? Now, good. What's in attempt number 2? Yaakov. It says, it says,
Tag on who?
I'm sorry, I believe I got Rameir Hainu Beis Shammai. Right? And then for Rameir it would end up being like Beis Shammai. So now the Gemara says no. So Hachi Kamar. So now comes version number 2.
Okay, lo nechadu Beis Shammai Beisel, but there was it. Did not argue on this matter.
What do they not argue? What do you mean they didn't argue on this matter?
On
Where are we?
Yeah, I'm not.
The Gemara is saying, no, Rameir's answer would be, no, it's not that Rameir agrees with Beis Shammai. No, the way you read the Mishnah is that, is there a machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? So according to Rabbi Yehuda, there is a machlokas between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, and according to Rameir, there is no machlokas between Beis Hillel and Beis
Why are
Shammai.
they both listed?
What do you mean?
Well, this felt like bringing it.
Who's both?
Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel.
Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, they're machlokas.
Oh.
In other words, like this.
Oh.
Okay. In other words, attempt number 2 is machlokas about
Right.
machlokas.
Right.
Okay?
Rameir says they do not argue.
Rameir says they don't argue.
Now how can Rameir?
Now we'll say, but what don't they argue about? We don't know what what
Exactly.
Beis Hillel and Shammai agree with yet.
Right.
But saying the way it's setting up is that it's all along. It's not the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Meir is whether or not there's machlokas between Beis Hillel and Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Okay.
All right.
We're going to get to some great Sfar stuff, but it's going to take a while to get to these facts.
What, agree with him?
It says, Hakikar Malay Rav Meir Rabbi Yehuda lo nechaklu b'davar zed the Beis Hillel. The Beis Hillel kavase svir lahu. Dei mesachim nesarim v'lo mahani pikbook. It's very simple. Beis Hillel agrees with Beis Shammai. That what? What is Rashi saying? Beis Hillel agrees with Beis Shammai. Therefore what?
Only Pesach.
Only Pesach. No ta'achas meintayim. Okay?
And they can be like,
Right. So now, version number 2 is machlokas about the machlokas, and
All right.
according to Rav Meir,
how does that work?
Yeah, I don't get what the
According to
lesson.
Rabbi Meir, what is Rabbi Yehuda saying?
The issue is just
Rav
how.
Yehuda is saying that if you work out the machlokas this way, Rav Yehuda is saying that Beis Hillel holds that mifafkek would be sufficient.
So they're arguing really like,
Yes, you can put it that way. They're arguing about whether Beis Hillel agree with Beis Shammai and held that only no till achas main time, or no, held that mifafkek was a solution as well.
how do you have a fact with
Question raised. How do you have a factual dispute like that? Good question. But first, let's get through the facts. Okay. This is attempt number 2. You have to get. You can't start to find it. But listen, the Gemara says, "My kamash malan, the Rameir islay xeris tikra." Right.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Rabbi Yehuda.
My question on Rabbi Meir is okay exists. Rabbi Yehuda lacely existing.
Oh, so what? Therefore, what's the solution? So going back to the original way we had it? So what's the overall machlokas then? There's the overall machlokas. The byproduct of learning. Okay, let's be clear. The byproduct of learning that whether it's a machlokas of Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai or not, is whether there's xeris tikra or not.
In this
Right.
situation?
In general, not just in this situation. In general, because Rabbi Yehuda is going to say the machlokas is about xeris tikra, but therefore he maintains that according to Beis Hillel there is xeris tikra, whereas according to Rameir, I'm sorry,
No,
I keep confusing. I know. In other words, Rabbi Yehuda is saying there's no xeris tikra doesn't apply, right? Whereas Rameir holds it does apply across the board, meaning Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai both agree a xeris tikra applies. But now we have a problem with that.
Whatever that means.
What's the problem? Whatever that means. But what's the problem with that, though? What's the problem? The Gemara is going to say, Yudal Aman Aleph, right?
Yeah.
The Gemara says, 1 second, V'ha ifluga ba'achad zimna.
Yeah. Chazan the Tanan, it's not. Misachim is Divrei Yehuda. Okay, so he agrees. Remeda Oser.
Okay, so the Gemara says, 1 second, we have this machlokas already. So you can't rehash a machlokas. Can't rehash the machlokas, right?
Why not?
Because the Gemara never wastes ink, okay? We're not going to rehash the machlokas. Okay, so that's attempt number
3.
2, okay? Oh, okay.
Sorry, Mishuvin Haskinan. Mishuvin Gazer's Kalim Nigo.
Okay, so now we got to be very careful here, okay? Okay, so, because I'm not going to get involved in I tried to, but I realized it would take us years. The issue of Xeris Kalim. Okay, so what's he saying? So Rechia is saying that, Rechia says not so fast. That Mishnah there was not talking about, that Mishnah over there was not talking about a machlokas about Tikra, rather it was talking about a machlokas of Xeris. Now, okay, what are Nisarim Meshufin?
Expensive, right?
Yeah, these like, was it metal?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the issue?
Metal rods.
Well, it's not kosher.
Alright, Rashi, take a look at Rashi. Amar Rechia bar Abba.
That one's not okay.
Oh yeah. Okay, you know the Xer already. But anyway, it says Reisha Lab Mishum Xeris Tikra Iflug, right? So the Mishnah over there in Yudad is not talking about Xeris Tikra. Ela ben Asarin She'ena b'nei Arba. They're less than 4. Aval Mishufin Hain v'chalakim. Veru'in l'tashmish. So they're basically hot. What's the band of the other? There's some. They're. I think it was a case of an arrowhead, if I remember correctly. But there's an opening in them.
Male,
okay.
female.
Right. Very good. Very good. Very good. So now the Gemara. So Rashi says Mishum Xeris Kalim Nagaba Livsal. So there's nothing to do with Xeris Tikra. Rather, it's a separate takana altogether about Xeris Kalim. Now let's be clear. Xeris Kalim, which is. I'll give you a practical modern day example. In the old days, today we use those flattened bamboo mats. I think most people use those. But in my day, we actually use bamboo poles. But bamboo poles can be a problem if what?
There's a hole.
If there's a hole on one side and not in the other. Because what's going to happen?
Because you can fill it with something.
Become a kli, right? So what people used to do is used to drill holes
through the
thing on each side, and therefore it's not a clean anymore. But the point is, now, does that have anything to do with Taaseh and HeAsui? No. Binyan? No. But it does have to do with what? The chepsa.
Right.
Which is not our Sukkah. Okay, good. So
this is talking about.
So Rav Yehuda.
Yehuda Amarav Damar Succah Bechitzin Zcharim Shera. You skach with male arrows it's kosher.
Right, and Menekevos. Okay.
Velo Gezer Zcharim. Okay, did not.
Velo Gazar Zcharim Atu Nekevos. So since Nekevos are so they didn't include Zcharim as well.
Right.
Okay. Keep going.
What's that?
No, so
because in Nekavos, so they also included Zachar because they didn't want.
That's the other side,
up, right?
Right? The other side's going to say that.
What?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, so look what he says. Hachanami lo nigzar nisarim mishufin atu kelim. Okay. So therefore, they didn't go there on these types of beams from kelim. What does that mean for us? Okay, one second. The machlokas is like this. You can't learn the machlokas in Yudalit to be a machlokas on Xeris Kalim because everyone agrees that it applies to Nekevos but doesn't apply to Meshufin. Okay, what words do they use in the Mishnah Yudalit and Aleph? Nisarim. Yeah. Okay, so now the Gemara says maybe you'll say the machlokas about Nisarim isn't about what we thought. Not our Tikra Nisarim, rather it's about Meshufin Nisarim. Right. Maybe that's what they're arguing about. Problem is. They never argue on Nisar Meshufin. Because you see, they both agree that Nekevos, but you don't go from Nekevos to Zacharim. So too, no one ever says the Gzer would ever apply, the Gzer's Tikra would ever apply to Nisar Meshufin. Excuse me, the Gzer's Kalim would ever apply to Nisar Meshufin. Meaning that there could never be a machlokas in Yudal Amar Aleph about whether or not you can use Nisar Meshufin. Both Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda would agree that it wouldn't be a problem of Gzer's Kalim.
Right.
Okay, so therefore, the machlokas in Yudan Amalaf is not about Nisar Meshufin, and therefore the Gemara. Okay, so therefore, what's the Gemara going to have to return back to?
So we got to go to a different way of looking at it. But they are
what?
They are.
No. So now we've thrown out number two.
What?
Okay. Therefore, the machlokas in Yudan Amalaf is about Tikra, and therefore back to the redundancy. Correct. Back to the redundancy. Right. Okay. Now the Gemara wants that's like a hybrid. Okay. But to return back to the original assumption, but a hybrid. So the Gemara says no. All along, the machlokas is what? One second, I lost it. No, he's talking about within our Mishnah. Okay, back to our Mishnah. Yeah, so he said this. He's saying that
first word is Atu.
Meaning Rabbi Yehuda, right? The Sefer pligi b'gzeres tikra. Okay, the ifligi b'tarti zimni.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Reisha is arguing about Xeris Tikra and the Sefer is arguing about Xeris Tikra. Okay? So now the Gemara wants it, the Gemara is going to modify the way it learned it. It's saying no. There is a machlokas there and there's a machlokas here. Right? And they're both arguing about Tikra. Okay, but now Yudal and Aleph. But the Gemara is going to say 1 second. The Gemara says, just like I said before. No, before that. But it says the iflugu b'tarti zimni lamali. So what do you need two machlokasim for? Right. So Seifa Rav Yehudahi, right? De ka Amar le Rav Meir, Amai ka asaras b'nesarim mishum zeres tikra, right? Hai sfar le beishamayhu, de islahu, uveisel lo gazre, the Amar Meir lo nechlu beishamay selo b'davar zeh. There are two versions of the machlokas, but it's kind of like what you're saying. There are two versions, but not how you think there are two versions. Okay, it means like this. The first machlokas in Yudal is the machlokas on Xeris Tikra or not. Okay? That machlokas is the machlokas. The machlokas here in our Mishnah is the machlokas on what? Yes, but how? It is a machlokas about Beishamay Silo. It is a machlokas about Beishamay Silo. But what's the machlokas? Okay, so I wrote it nicely, and I think he wrote it nicely in the notes. But it's like this: in our Mishnah, the machlokus is whether the question of Gzeras Tikra is a machlokus between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Rav Yehuda holds the issue of Gzeras Tikra is a machlokus Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, whereas Rav Meir holds that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel agree there is no Gzeras Tikra. But he, Rav Meir, holds there is one. Okay, so changing that one fact. Okay. Rav Meir in Yudal Amud Aleph holds that there is a Gzeras Tikra. Okay, but the question here is there machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai whether there's Gzeras Tikra or not?
Right.
Okay, so what does he hold? What does Rav Meir hold? The first machlokas in Yudalad is machlokas about whether Gzeras Tikra or not. The second machlokas is about whether there is a machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel whether there is Gzeras Tikra or not. Again, so Rabbi Yehuda is holding in our Mishnah here that Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel have a machlokas about Gzeras Tikra without question. Okay, but Rav Meir holds. But Rav Meir doesn't. Okay, no. I see what it is now. Rav Meir is saying in our Mishnah here, Rav Meir says no to achaz meintayim. What he's responding. He's not saying that. Not that he's agreeing with Beis Shammai. That's not what he's coming here to do. He's saying back to Rav Yehuda. He says to Rav Yehuda, it's almost like you got to put like a line in the Mishnah, an extra line, where what he says to Rav Yehuda is there is a machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Both of them agree, right? Both of them agree that there is no issue of Gzeras Tikra. But I hold that there's a problem of Gzeras Tikra. That's how you read the Mishnah. Okay? In other words, the original way of learning attempt number 2, okay, was what? Was that really Rav Meir agrees with Beis Shammai, right? Rav Meir holds no to achaz, and Beis Shammai holds no to achaz. But because we learned Rav Meir to say that there is no machlokas Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, and they both agree that what? That there is Gzeras Tikra. Yeah. So therefore there's no difference between Rav Meir and Beis Shammai. But what if Rav Meir really holds that there is no machlokas Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, like we said before, but what are they both agreeing on? That there is no Gzeras Tikra. So Rav Meir is saying, even though I hold that Beis Shammai Beis Hillel don't hold of Gzeras Tikra, I hold of Gzeras Tikra.
And Rav Yehuda holds that they are arguing?
Correct.
And who says what?
No, that Beis Hillel holds there's no Gzeras Tikra, and Beis Shammai holds there is Gzeras Tikra.
That's weird.
Okay, so no.
According
So
they're not arguing, right? They both
right. In other words, like
so what does Rav Meir have to do anything?
And then this is what we'll end off with, because this is the final Bekia's point. From Bekia's standpoint, what the Gemara is trying to show you is that initially the problem was that Rav Meir and Beis Shammai were equivalent positions, right? But we don't want that, because then there's no reason to have Rav Meir in the Mishnah. The Gemara is saying even that the Gemara is agreeing that at the end of the day there's no practical nafkamina between them. Right. Practically speaking, they both hold Gzeras Tikra. The question is, how is it derived? Rav Yehuda says it's a machlokas Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, and therefore Rav Yehuda would say Beis Shammai on his own, so to speak, came up with the position of Gzeras Tikra, or he holds Gzeras Tikra, right? Rav Meir says no. At no point in time did anybody hold Gzeras Tikra until Rav Meir. You understand? Rav Meir is saying that it's my position. My position is Gzeras Tikra, not Beis Shammai.
And we do not care about Yudal right now.
No, so that's the thing. No, we do care about Yudal. Yudal was introducing us to the fact that there's a machlokas about Gzeras Tikra. Rav Yehuda holds there is, and Rav Meir says there's not. That's just insofar as what they hold. Okay. This is saying insofar as how they derived it. Rabbi Yehuda derived his position from Beis Hillel. Rav Meir did not derive his position from anything of these guys. He had his own position.
Right.
So this is focusing on how they derived it.
The final version.
Exactly, which Yudal is telling you what the machlokas itself is.
Okay, now can I ask,